What makes this situation so messy isn't just the allegation itself, it's how a single repost spiraled into a legal threat, a backlash cycle, and a broader conversation about power, speech, and celebrity image control. Hailey Bieber is now facing criticism not because of something she said directly, but because of something she briefly amplified, then denied, and then responded to with lawyers. And once you understand the sequence of events, it becomes clear why so many people feel like this escalated in the worst possible way. This all began with a TikTok video created by a content creator named Julie, who shared her personal opinions about long-term relationships, codependence, and why certain marriages last despite appearing unhealthy from the outside. In that video, she used Hailey and Justin Bieber as an example, arguing that some relationships endure because one partner, often the woman, tolerates behavior that others wouldn't. She framed this as a broader sociological and psychological commentary rather than a personal attack, but she did make specific claims about Justin's past substance use and about what she views as emotional harm within the relationship. At some point after that video began circulating, Hailey Bieber reposted a version of it on her own TikTok page. This is important because reposting on TikTok is not a passive action. It requires clicking a visible button, confirming the action, and publishing it to your profile. Within a short time, fans noticed, screen recorded it, and took screenshots. Then the repost disappeared. Almost immediately after, Hailey posted a message implying that she had never reposted any video commenting on her marriage, suggesting that people online were bored and obsessing over her relationship. That denial is where things began to unravel, because by that point, the repost had already been documented by multiple users. Whether the repost was accidental, impulsive, or deliberate is something only Hailey knows, but the existence of the repost itself wasn't really debatable. People had receipts. So instead of calming the situation, the denial created a sense of gaslighting for viewers who felt like they were being told not to believe what they had just seen with their own eyes. And then came the legal response. Julie later revealed that she received a cease and desist letter from attorneys representing Hailey Bieber. According to Julie, the letter demanded that she remove multiple videos and permanently refrain from making any content that described the Biebers' relationship as abusive or unhealthy. The letter allegedly accused her of fabricating claims, falsely characterizing Justin Bieber as an addict, and presenting personal opinions as factual statements. This is where the situation shifts from internet drama to something much more serious. Because whether you agree with Julie's commentary or not, sending a legal threat to a smaller creator changes the dynamic entirely. It introduces power imbalance, it raises questions about intimidation versus protection, and it forces people to confront the uncomfortable reality that wealthy public figures have tools available to them that most individuals don't. Julie responded publicly by stating that her content was opinion-based, that she did not claim to be diagnosing anyone, and that commentary on public figures is legally protected speech. She framed the cease and desist as an attempt to silence criticism rather than correct misinformation, and she argued that this kind of legal pressure is precisely why many creators self-censor when discussing celebrities. At the same time, critics of Julie pushed back, saying that calling someone an addict or an abuser goes beyond harmless opinion, especially when applied to real people rather than hypothetical scenarios. This is where the debate becomes more nuanced, because there actually is a line between opinion and defamatory assertion, and that line isn't always obvious in influencer commentary culture. Adding even more complexity is Justin Bieber's own history of public statements. In past Instagram posts, Justin openly discussed his struggles with substance use and acknowledged that he behaved poorly in previous relationships, describing himself as resentful, disrespectful, emotionally distant, and angry during that period of his life. Those admissions are real and documented, but they also reflect a specific time frame and a person who claims to have changed. Whether those past behaviors justify present-day speculation is where opinions sharply diverge. Some viewers argue that referencing Justin's own words makes Julie's commentary fair game. Others argue that taking those admissions and applying them broadly to his current marriage crosses into harmful extrapolation. And this disagreement is exactly why this situation has blown up the way it has, because it sits at the intersection of accountability, privacy, and public perception. What also didn't help is how Hailey's response was perceived emotionally. Instead of acknowledging the repost as a mistake or clarifying what happened, the denial came across as dismissive, and the legal threat came across as aggressive. Even people who don't agree with Julie's original video found themselves uncomfortable with the escalation, especially since legal action often has the opposite effect online. It amplifies attention, it draws more eyes. It creates a Streisand effect where content that might have faded instead becomes central to a much larger conversation, and that's exactly what happened here. The video that initially had relatively modest reach suddenly exploded, gaining millions of views. More creators weighed in. More commentary followed. And instead of protecting Hailey's image, the situation reinforced an existing narrative that critics already believed, which is that she is hyper-defensive about her marriage and overly reactive to public opinion. Another layer to this story involves the broader issue of internet diagnosis. A friend of Justin's, SZA, commented on Julie's content, asking whether she was a licensed therapist or psychologist. Julie responded that she holds degrees in psychology and has worked in behavioral research, but is not a licensed therapist and does not claim to treat or diagnose clients. That exchange sparked yet another debate about whether academic background justifies public psychological analysis of people you've never met. Many professionals chimed in to say that regardless of education, diagnosing or labeling individuals based on social media behavior is ethically questionable. Others argued that Julie never claimed to diagnose anyone, but rather offered a theoretical framework using public information. Again, this is where intent, wording, and audience interpretation all collide. What's undeniable is that this situation reflects a much larger pattern in celebrity culture. Public figures are scrutinized constantly, and audiences feel entitled to interpret every action, repost, caption, or silence. At the same time, celebrities rely on controlled narratives, PR teams, and legal counsel to manage that scrutiny. When those two forces collide, it often results in exactly this kind of escalation. There's also a gendered aspect that many viewers have pointed out. Much of the criticism focuses on Hailey rather than Justin, framing her as responsible for managing his behavior, defending his image, or absorbing public fallout. Some see this as unfair, arguing that she's being blamed for things she didn't do. Others see it as a reflection of how women in high-profile relationships are expected to protect men at all costs, even when it damages their own credibility. And then there's the question of intent behind the repost itself. Was it accidental? Was it a moment of emotional reaction? Was it a form of silent agreement, or was it simply a misclick that spiraled out of control? TikTok's interface makes accidental reposts possible, but it doesn't make them invisible. And once something is public, even briefly, it becomes part of the record whether the poster likes it or not. The choice to deny rather than contextualize that repost is what many people find troubling, because saying I accidentally reposted this and took it down immediately would have likely ended the conversation. Instead, the denial created friction, and the legal threat poured gasoline on the fire. At this point, opinions are deeply divided. Some people believe Hailey was right to defend herself against what they view as harmful speculation and defamatory language. Others believe the legal response was disproportionate and only confirmed fears about silencing criticism. Some see Julie as a truth teller being bullied by wealth and power. Others see her as a creator who crossed ethical boundaries for engagement. What makes this especially uncomfortable is that both things can be partially true at the same time. Creators absolutely should be able to critique public figures. That freedom matters. But with that freedom comes responsibility, especially when discussing topics like addiction and abuse, which carry real-world consequences. At the same time, public figures should be able to protect themselves from false claims, but legal intimidation against smaller voices raises serious concerns about fairness and access. This situation isn't just about Hailey Bieber or Julie, it's about how modern discourse works online. It's about how quickly speculation becomes accepted narrative. It's about how legal power can chill speech even when no lawsuit is filed. And it's about how the internet rewards escalation over resolution. If Hailey's goal was to shut this conversation down, it didn't work. If Julie's goal was to spark dialogue, she certainly succeeded, but at a cost. And if the audience's goal is truth, that remains elusive, because none of us actually know what happens inside someone else's marriage.